Alright, so Selena came to Duel Links and brought some skills and new fusions with her. This doesn't change the game plan of Lunalights at all, but it does give them something better to do. This deck's new boss monster is Lunalight Leo Dancer, who can't be targeted or destroyed by the opponent's card effects. Most decks have a way to destroy cards without targeting, and most decks have a way to remove things without destroying, but most decks can't do both in the same card. So Leo Dancer is going to be super safe against the majority of decks. If you want to know how to beat Leo Dancer, use effects that both don't target and don't destroy, or have some way to run over it in battle. Leo Dancer can also attack twice, and after attacking a monster, it destroys all of the opponent's special summoned monsters, so that a second attack will be a clean direct attack for game. The idea is that you win the game the turn you summon this, so that even if the opponent has a way to stop this in their deck, you will kill them before they get a chance to use it. The biggest issue with this card is if you want to summon it, it actually requires another fusion monster as its material. So you'd have to fusion summon that first monster, and even worse, the fusion it uses as material also needs another fusion as material to summon it. Nah bro, get the hell out of here. I'm not doing all that. Thankfully, Lunalights has a much easier way to skip that process, and it's called Lunalight Fusion. Lunalight Fusion is normally just like Polymerization that can only summon Lunalight Fusions, but if your opponent controls a monster summoned from the extra deck, you can also use a material from your main deck or extra deck. Yeah, you can fuse using your extra deck, so you can use a fusion as fusion material for your fusion. So you can use the Panther Dancer in your extra deck and 2 other Lunalights from hand or field to go into Leo Dancer, or if you wanted to summon Panther Dancer, you could just use the Cat Dancer from the extra deck and 1 other Lunalight from hand or field, and you could even summon Cat Dancer if you wanted, using Saber Dancer from your extra deck and 1 other Lunalight. So you could use Saber Dancer's grave effect next turn to boost up the Cat Dancer's attack by 3 stacks. Let's also not forget that you don't have to use the extra deck. You could instead use the main deck, because the Lunalight main deck monsters have benefits from being sent to the grave. Of course, we are usually going to send stuff from the extra deck so we can get bigger fusions, but we might find ourselves in a situation where we prefer to use them from the main deck, and it's good to know these effects anyway if we are going to be using them from hand or field. Crimson Fox, when sent by card effect, will reduce an opponent's monster to 0 attack for that turn, and if the opponent targets a Lunalight, you can banish it from grave to negate that, and then both players gain 1000 life. Emerald Bird, when sent by card effect, revives a low level Lunalight, but it'll negate what it revives. Purple Butterfly can banish itself to special summon a Lunalight from the hand. This one's usually going to be useful for going into Xyz plays. And lastly, Yellow Martin can return a Lunalight card from your field to your hand, and if you do, it'll summon itself, but it'll banish itself when it leaves the field, and if it's sent to the grave by card effect, it'll search a Lunalight back row including Lunalight Fusion. That's actually super useful from Martin because we rely really heavily on Lunalight Fusion, but we won't always have it in our hand, so if you have a way to get it into the grave by another card effect, you'll be able to get that search off, then resummon it from grave, returning 1 of your monsters to the hand, so you'll have even more fusion material available. The way we can get it into the grave in this deck is by using the on summon effect of Emerald Bird. On normal or special summon, it discards a card to draw a card, and it's all considered part of the same effect, so it isn't a cost, so it will trigger the Martin to search Lunalight Fusion, and of course you will also draw a card from the bird as well, and then you'll be able to return the bird from field to hand to resummon that Martin, and you'll have gained a lot of consistency and card advantage. This combo was actually way too good back in the day, so they limited Emerald Bird and Yellow Martin to 3, so you can only play a total of 3 copies between them, but we also have Fire Formation Tenki to search out whatever we need. There is a Lunalight that we are playing that doesn't actually have a grave effect, but it does have 2 great on-field effects. White Rabbit on summon will revive a Lunalight. Also, it can target to bounce opponent's back row up to the amount of other Lunalight cards you control. You could potentially use Rabbit to revive the bird so that the bird can discard Martin to search the fusion, and the bird can draw a card. Then you could return 1 of your opponent's back row with a Rabbit before using the Martin to return the Rabbit to your hand, so you can go into a rank 4 Xyz before fusion summoning. Also, if you can fusion summon, you could fusion summon something first, then once you've done that, you can use the White Rabbit to revive Blue Cat. Blue Cat on special summon will double the attack of 1 of your other Lunalight monsters, so you could make 1 of your fusions super huge. Blue Cat also has a good chance of being in the graveyard because Blue Cat is pretty much the only turn 1 play this deck has, that being setting it face down so that the opponent can destroy it, because if it's destroyed, it summons another Lunalight from the deck. That's a little bit of survivability. You could also use it benefit to summon Emerald Bird from the deck to discard a card and draw a card, which could help you get your Lunalight grave benefits. For example, you could discard Crimson Fox to reduce one of your opponent's monsters to 0, so it's harder for them to kill you that turn. The thing about Lunalight Fusion getting a benefit if your opponent has a monster summon from the extra deck is that if you went first, they won't have a monster summon from the extra deck because you're the one going first. That's why going first, the main thing we want to aim for in this deck is survivability. That's why we rely on the floating effect of Blue Cat, which we can of course search for using Tenki, but if the opponent removes it without destroying it or has enough removal that the floating doesn't matter, then we are really screwed. In order for a deck to be viable these days, it needs to have both a solid turn 1 and a solid turn 2. Of course, this deck can do really good things going second, but if it goes first, its survivability plays aren't strong enough. Because of this, you are probably going to want to play some cards in your deck that make it easier to survive. There are two options you can use. Feel free to pick whichever one you prefer or whichever one you have, but they are Trifortress Ops and White Princess. Trifortress Ops can special summon itself as a quick effect if the opponent has summoned at least 3 times during that turn, and then if it was summoned by this way, it becomes unaffected by card effects, except its own, and during every standby phase, it loses 500 defense. That's okay though, because it being unaffected by card effects with 2800 defense for 1 turn is going to be good enough in a lot of scenarios to keep us alive at least, and we can use it after the opponent has attacked with some of their monsters, just so that this one can prevent the finishing blow if needed. White Princess has the quick effect to discard itself to make all monsters lose attack equal to their level or rank times 300 for the turn. Most of the time that's going to make the opponent's monsters small enough so that they can't kill you, unless they are playing Link monsters, because this card doesn't work on Link monsters since Link monsters don't have levels or ranks. White Princess is much cheaper than Trifortress Ops though, and it does do the job well against most of the meta, so feel free to play it. And again, it isn't really a matter of which is better or which is cheaper, but it's more a matter of personal preference. It is a good thing to take some damage though, because it will allow us to use our skill Lunar Whirl Lure. This skill will put a bonus copy of Blue Cat and Purple Butterfly into our deck, and we'll also put a Cat Dancer into the extra deck so that we will have more extra deck space. During our draw phase, if we have lost 1500 or more life, we can draw Lunalight Fusion instead of a normal draw to guarantee that we can get into one of our fusions. So here's the game plan. If we go first, we try our best to survive, and if we survive but take enough damage, then we will be able to draw our Lunalight Fusion, summon one of our big boss monsters, and win the game right away. And if we go second and we have the ability to make a fusion to go for game, then we do that, but if we don't, then we just try our best to survive and do the other game plan. The game plan itself is incredibly simple. What might be a little bit more complicated is using the small Lunalights themselves to their best advantage. There isn't really a combo in this deck though, but there are interactions between the Lunalights that I have talked about in this video that can lead to a lot of opportunities for decision making. So this video won't have any combo tutorials, but definitely think about what Lunalights you are using, how you are using them, and when you are using them. That said though, there are scenarios where you won't be going into Leo Dancer. There are valid reasons to go into the other fusions. Panther Dancer is the least common one to go into, but it just requires 2 materials. So if you are low on Lunalights, you could fuse using 1 Lunalight from your hand or field and the 1 Cat Dancer from the extra deck. And this one can be targeted by card effects, but it can't be destroyed by card effects. And it has an ignition effect that lets it attack all the opponent's monsters twice each, and it will also protect their monsters from battle once each. Every time it destroys a monster by battle, it gains 200 attack for the rest of the battle phase. So this card is easier to go into than Leo and is also very good at attacking for game. Saber Dancer is more common to go for when the opponent hasn't summoned anything from the extra deck, but you can still fusion summon with 3 materials, as this one can be destroyed by card effects, but it can't be targeted by card effects. And in Duel Links, being untargetable is way better than being indestructible because most back row targets, and Saber Dancer also gains 200 attack for every Beast Warrior in both players' field and graveyard. It's usually going to be at the very least 3600 attack, but it can very easily get much bigger than that as well, especially in a grind game. If you can summon Panther Dancer but the opponent has a big monster and you can't use Crimson Fox to reduce them, or if your opponent doesn't have something summoned from the extra deck but you still want to OTK, then you can summon Cat Dancer using 2 materials, or if the opponent has a big monster, you could send Crimson Fox from deck to grave to reduce them. And Cat Dancer can be destroyed by card effects and can be targeted by card effects, but its benefit is that it is the easiest Lunalight to summon in all scenarios. If you don't need to send something from your deck to the grave, you could also send a Saber Dancer from extra deck to grave as material, since Saber Dancer can buff Lunalights by 3k extra attack on a turn after it was sent to the grave. Cat Dancer has the same effect as Panther to double attack monsters, but it also has to tribute another Lunalight in order to activate that effect, whereas Panther can do it for free. But if you use Emerald Bird as material, it can trigger to resummon something for tribute. Since there are going to be situations where you can exceed summon, of course we are playing some of the best ranked rank 4s in the game: Sin, Roach, Dweller, and Rebellion. But we also have Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Tiger King, who on summon can set a fire formation back row from the deck, including Tenki, which can search our whole archetype, and also it can detach a material as an ignition effect to negate all of the opponent's monsters except for Beast Warriors until the end of the opponent's turn. This isn't a quick effect though. This effect is mainly to turn off or bait the opponent's interruptions or protection so that your fusions can more easily go in for game. Since almost every card in this deck is a dark monster or searches for a dark monster, we can profitably use Allure of Darkness in this deck for more consistency. You don't actually have to play Blue Cat in this deck since the skill will put one in, but I like having the bonus copy so I have a better chance of surviving turn 1. But if you wanted, you could play more Purple Butterfly. The skill will give you 1 and you should at least play another copy to have a total of at least 2. But if you wanted more so that you could more easily go for Xyz plays, then that would be totally fine. It's up to you. At the end of the day, I'm not here to tell you how to build your deck, I'm here to show you how to play it. I'm not gonna lie though guys, this deck isn't all that competitive. There's too much weakness in the turn 1 and not enough consistency for the turn 2, but it is at least good enough to have some fun on ranked, and if you grind enough you could probably get to King of Games with it, but it would be very difficult. Some cards that would actually be really good to buff this deck up are Lunalight Tiger, who has a loop that can allow you to spam out some rank 4s for interruption, Lunalight Perfume for more special summons and searches, potentially more interruptive rank 4 Xyz could help as well, and maybe having less restrictive hits on the ban list. But yeah guys, if you have any more questions about the deck, be sure to leave them in the comments or in Discord and we can talk about it more there. If you liked the video, then slap like now, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell to get notified every time we make a new video. Have a great weekend guys, and I've been Undead from Team 6K, signing out.
Hey, why they gotta hate on me? I done got me 250,000 views and they still saying they low key. They ain't wanna come work with the kid, but I'm flexing with Zay on beats. How they ask for a spot at the gym, but they leave all the weight on me. I don't ask them to wait on me. They would ask where they gon' be with a song if they wanted the weatherman. I ain't asking to pay no fees. She was homeless and needed a spot. I ain't ask her to pay no lease. I ain't ask her to say no please. I ain't ask her to make no cheese. Scream fake, but it ain't on me. Got clean so it ain't no streets. Why green if it ain't no keeps? Brought cream so it ain't no beef. My team say it ain't no chief. My demon they hang on me. They seemingly ain't no peace. I seen him, he ain't no beast. For real.